You know that exact moment in almost every travel vlog where an international visitor just freezes, stares at the camera, and completely short circuits? Maybe they're standing in a massive suburban parking lot, trying to process an ocean of oversized SUVs stretching to the horizon. Maybe they're staring at a diner pancake that could genuinely feed a family of 4 back home. Or, very often, they just walk through the sliding doors of a highway gas station and are totally baffled as to why it has a full bakery, a barbecue counter, and an entire hunting department. For decades, a lot of Europeans figured they already knew America without ever booking a flight. They watched the Hollywood movies, binged the TV shows, read the wild news headlines, and built this mental image of a country that was loud, chaotic, and just a lot. But with millions of global fans gearing up to cross the Atlantic for the 2026 World Cup, a totally different story is starting to pop up from folks who've already made the trip. Travelers from the UK, Germany, France, and Scandinavia are skipping the usual tourist traps in New York and LA. Instead, they're renting cars and driving straight into the heartland. They're hitting up small towns in Georgia, cruising the vast Texas plains, and stopping at roadside diners in Tennessee. And what they're finding is completely flipping their view of American society. They're discovering a place that is hyper-organized, aggressively convenient, and run by a consumer market that dictates daily life. But more than anything, they're getting hit with a level of hospitality that instantly shatters their preconceived notions. The first real culture shock usually has zero to do with the size of the buildings or the food. It's how everyday people interact. A guy from London recently visited a small town in the south and joked in his video that he was physically exhausted just trying to keep up with how many strangers wanted to chat with him. In a lot of Northern and Western Europe, ignoring people in public is basically just a sign of respect for their privacy. You don't strike up a conversation in an elevator, you definitely don't chat with the guy behind you in the pharmacy line, and you don't expect a cashier to ask about your weekend plans. But in the US, especially the South and the Midwest, silence in a shared space often just comes off as rude. A German visitor walking through an Alabama neighborhood was genuinely confused when people sitting on their porches kept waving at him. He literally thought he was trespassing or that they mistook him for someone they knew. It took him days to realize that acknowledging another human being is just baseline American etiquette. This outgoing vibe spills right into the service industry, which a lot of visitors initially find completely overwhelming. An Irish tourist at a Florida diner was completely thrown off when his waitress called him "sweetheart" and actually sat down in his booth to recommend her favorite food. At first, a lot of European travelers think this hyped-up friendliness is fake, assuming it's just a hustle for tips. And sure, tipping culture definitely pushes good customer service, but it's a lot deeper than just a cash transaction. American culture places a massive premium on making people feel welcome. When a grocery store cashier asks a British visitor if they found everything and wishes them a blessed day, it's not an interrogation. It's just an ingrained cultural script. Over time, these skeptical travelers actually start warming up to it. One Swedish vlogger even admitted that after 2 weeks road tripping through the south, going back to the quiet, reserved streets of Stockholm felt a little lonely. They realized the friendliness isn't a commitment to a lifelong friendship, it's just social lubricant to make the day nicer. But while the people make the place feel super welcoming, the physical space does the exact opposite. The second a European tourist pulls their rental car onto an American roadway, the unbelievable scale of the country hits them like a physical force. Suddenly, they're navigating a 6-lane interstate. They look in the rearview mirror and see heavy-duty pickup trucks that are literally the size of European commercial delivery vans. A French traveler driving through Texas joked that the hood of a Ford F-250 was taller than the roof of his entire car back in Paris. To an outsider, this obsession with massive vehicles and wide lanes looks like pure American excess. But as they spend more time on the road, the sheer geography of the US puts it all into context. You could comfortably fit the entire UK inside Texas, and still have room left over for a few other European countries. We have nearly 50,000 miles of interstate connecting a continent that is ridiculously spread out. A Dutch family driving from Dallas to El Paso was stunned to realize they had been driving at highway speeds for 10 hours and were still in the exact same state. When you compare our 94 people per square mile to the UK's 700, it makes sense. American infrastructure was built in the 20th century around the car, prioritizing suburban sprawl over dense, walkable city centers. Because everything is so spread out, Americans spend a huge chunk of their lives in their cars. It's not just a ride, it's a mobile office, a dining room, and a personal safe space. And naturally, we want that space to be as big and comfortable as possible. This car culture feeds directly into the next big culture shock, the American supermarket. When a Scottish family walked through the sliding doors of a suburban Walmart for the first time, they just stopped in the main aisle and slowly panned the camera. They were looking at a single room big enough to park commercial airplanes. In many European cities, grocery shopping is a quick, daily routine, a short walk to grab fresh ingredients for the next few meals. But in the American suburbs, going to the grocery store is a logistical mission. If your family lives 20 minutes from the nearest major supermarket, you aren't making that drive every single day. This geographical distance gave birth to bulk buying, which totally rewired the American consumer market. Tourists wandering through a Costco or Sam's Club often just start laughing in pure disbelief. They find jars of mayo you have to carry with two hands. They see 36 packs of toilet paper stacked to the ceiling and bags of cereal that look like they belong in a commercial kitchen. One Spanish creator held up a standard bottle of pain relievers containing 500 pills and pointed out that in Europe, you'd have to talk to a pharmacist just to buy a 20-pack. At first they ask, who could possibly need all this stuff? But as they trek through frozen food aisles that stretch on for miles, the economics of the American household start to click. Buying in bulk crushes the price per unit, offering huge value for large families. The American home is built to support this habit, featuring massive double-door fridges, backup deep freezers in the garage, and walk-in pantries for long-term storage. It's an incredibly efficient system for a society that values time and convenience above almost anything else. And nowhere is that mix of time, convenience, and staggering scale more obvious than on the American highway. When international tourists hear about a popular rest stop called Buc-ee's, they usually figure it's just a slightly bigger gas station. Then they pull off the highway in Texas or Tennessee, see that giant glowing beaver sign, and their minds are blown. One British vlogger pulled into a Buc-ee's parking lot and literally sat in his car for a few minutes, just trying to process the 120 gas pumps lined up in a single row. When he walked inside, his reaction was identical to thousands of other international visitors. He was hit by a wall of sound, the smell of roasted pecans, and employees shouting that fresh barbecue brisket was ready on the cutting board. He walked past an entire wall of beef jerky, a massive bakery, and a home goods section selling everything from cast iron skillets to hunting gear. He eventually found the famous bathrooms, which are famously spotless and feature floor-to-ceiling doors for absolute privacy. This is the moment European travelers realize America isn't just big for the sake of being big. It's highly engineered to capture consumer spending by offering an overwhelming amount of choice and comfort. Buc-ee's exists because families are driving 7 hours across Texas for a weekend vacation, and they need one place to fuel their massive vehicle, feed the kids a hot meal, use a clean restroom, and buy road trip snacks without ever having to stop anywhere else. It is a uniquely American solution to a uniquely American geographical challenge. This overwhelming abundance naturally spills right into the restaurant industry, leading to arguably the most famous culture shock of all, the portion sizes. When a group of Danish tourists ordered standard pancakes at a diner, they were handed a stack bigger than their heads, dripping in butter and syrup. When a German fan ordered a medium soda at a drive-thru, he held it up to the camera to prove it held more liquid than a large back in Berlin. And when he finished that drink inside the restaurant, the server just handed him another one, completely free of charge. The concept of free refills, genuinely baffles European visitors. Across the pond, a drink is a specific item, usually poured from a glass bottle, and when it's gone, you buy another one. But in the highly competitive American market, ice and carbonated water are incredibly cheap. Free refills are a low-cost way for restaurants to make customers feel like they're getting endless hospitality and great value for their money. The same psychology applies to the massive plates of food. Restaurants know customers want a good deal. By piling a plate high with fries or making sure a steak hangs off the edge of the dish, the restaurant guarantees you won't leave hungry. But this leads to a secondary cultural habit that Europeans find super weird at first, only to fully embrace later: the doggy bag. A French tourist mentioned how bizarre it felt when her waiter proactively brought out a cardboard box to pack up her leftover pasta. In a lot of upscale European dining cultures, leaving a ton of food on your plate might be an insult to the chef, and asking for a plastic tub to take it home is just not done. In America, those leftovers are considered an essential part of the transaction. You aren't just paying for dinner tonight, you're paying for lunch tomorrow. Once travelers adapt to it, they usually admit on camera that they actually love the practicality of never wasting a good meal. That obsession with practicality is the true engine running beneath everyday American life. The US is a society entirely built around frictionless convenience. A Dutch vlogger was utterly fascinated when he realized he could drive up to an ATM, grab cash, and drive away without ever unbuckling his seatbelt. He later found a drive-thru pharmacy where a sick person could pick up their meds without ever walking into a store and coughing on anyone. He saw drive-thru coffee shops, drive-thru dry cleaners, and massive curbside pickup zones where employees load groceries straight into the trunks of waiting cars. To a European used to walking to a town square to visit individual shops, this drive-thru culture can seem isolating and detached from a sense of community. But as they spend more time here, they begin to see the unbelievable logistical efficiency behind it. The American consumer market is intensely competitive, and businesses know the fastest way to lose a customer is to make them wait or feel uncomfortable. That's why almost every building in the South is aggressively air-conditioned, no matter how hot it is outside. It's why ice makers are standard in almost every American fridge, providing instant relief on a hot summer day. It's why stores stay open late into the night, catering to people working irregular shifts. This whole culture of massive infrastructure and crowd management is going to be put on the ultimate global stage during the 2026 World Cup. When European soccer fans start touching down in cities like Atlanta, Dallas, and Houston, they're going to experience sports entertainment on a scale that is fundamentally different from European football. While Europe possesses legendary stadiums with incredible history and intense atmospheres, American sports venues are built like self-contained entertainment cities. A British fan visiting AT&T Stadium in Texas was completely mesmerized, not just by the field, but by the massive high-def screens hanging from the roof that are literally larger than a basketball court. He was shocked by the endless escalators, the concession stands serving everything from sushi to gourmet barbecue, and the strict enforcement of the clear bag security policy. But what surprised him the most was what was happening outside the stadium. The American tradition of tailgating turns massive concrete parking lots into sprawling outdoor festivals hours before a game even begins. Fans set up tents, fire up heavy-duty barbecue smokers, watch other games on portable TVs, and share food with strangers wearing the opposing team's jerseys. It's a communal experience that perfectly blends the American love for large vehicles, abundant food, and outgoing hospitality into one single event. Of course, realizing all this American efficiency and scale doesn't mean international visitors ignore the country's very real limitations. The exact same infrastructure that makes a road trip amazing also makes it nearly impossible to safely walk across a busy street in a suburban town. The lack of reliable public transit in most cities forces everyone to rely heavily on expensive personal cars. Many European travelers express genuine frustration with the American pricing system, where the price tag doesn't include final sales tax, turning every checkout into a math problem. And the tipping culture, while guaranteeing great service, often leaves visitors stressed out about how much extra cash they're expected to drop. They also totally recognize that visiting the US as a tourist with disposable income is a very different experience from trying to make a living within the American healthcare and economic systems. But despite those valid critiques, the overwhelming consensus at the end of their journeys is one of deep respect and genuine surprise. They don't change their minds because they saw a famous monument or a historical building. They change their minds because of the cumulative effect of 1,000 tiny, highly functioning details. They arrived expecting a country that was arrogant and chaotic, based entirely on the loudest political arguments they saw on social media. What they found instead was a profoundly complex society, designed to move massive amounts of people, goods, and services with remarkable efficiency. They found a country where a cashier genuinely wants you to have a good day, where the highways stretch forever, and where you can buy a television and a roasted chicken in the exact same massive building. The UK traveler, who was initially suspicious of friendly strangers, ended his trip saying Americans made him feel more welcome than he ever expected. The German fan, who laughed at the giant pickup trucks, admitted that after driving across Texas, he completely understood why they exist. And the tourists who were baffled by the giant portions realized it was simply the expression of a culture that wants to ensure you never leave empty-handed. No country is perfect, and the experiences of a few travelers certainly don't erase the complex challenges that exist within the United States. However, when thousands of visitors from entirely different backgrounds independently report the exact same shift in perspective, it's a pattern worth paying attention to. It proves that you can't truly understand a nation just by reading its headlines or watching its movies. You have to talk to its people, drive on its roads, and perhaps eat a brisket sandwich at a massive gas station in the middle of Texas to finally understand how the system actually works. What part of everyday American life do you think surprises international visitors the most? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into travel and culture, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.